When the Mackeys convert an abandoned roadhouse into a country music dance hall, they awaken an old evil. The angry dead attack the living and invade the bodies of the weak. With the help of a psychic and a preacher, the possessed fight to save their souls.
There's no time.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Well, it's us again.
Yeah, and this is going to be a haunting episode.
Yeah, I had actually planned on doing a true crime episode this week, but then this is an episode an episode of a haunting that I had written down, and I wasn't going to actually do it for a few more months.
Right.
Then I thought, well, you said we haven't done a haunting episode in a long time, and a lot of people seem to like those.
Right.
And I wanted to do this one specifically because it was a good episode of a haunting, but there's also a lot of other stuff about it. Like a lot of other paranormal shows have gone there and all this other kind of stuff. It's a lot easier for me to research it if there's like a lot of information about it.
Yeah, I was the one that actually kind of recommended that this is the one we should do next because of that. It's a famous case. It's not really my favorite episode of The Haunting.
It's a good one, though.
It's a good one. It's just
a decent one.
Yeah, there's other ones like Monster in the Apartment, though, that I think are a little bit better.
We're going to have to do that one at some point.
Yeah. There's a lot of good ones. And, sometimes it's because just the gag factor on some of them. Some, not gag factor, whatever, like the laugh factor on some of them, like Where's That Raccoon? Well, there's other stuff like that out of that series.
Not as funny as Where's That Raccoon or The Demon Child.
Right. Bobby Mackey's doesn't have anything in there that stands out to me that is like gag worthy, or trick or, laugh worthy that much. I think it's kind of a serious episode. I don't know if I buy every detail of this story, but we can get into that.
Well, the interesting thing about it is that a lot of urban legends have kind of sprung up about it, about its history and stuff like that. And we're not really sure how much of it is actually true, how much of it is exaggerated. Right. I'm not necessarily saying that people haven't seen paranormal shit happening there. I mean, they might have. It's just that I don't know, a lot of the stuff about who the spirits are supposed to be and stuff like that. I don't know how historically accurate any of that information.
Once we get into it, I question how could they know?
Yeah.
Kind of like where this information is coming from is kind of shaky.
Yeah, true.
It doesn't mean there isn't some kind of a phenomenon going on. I'm just saying
it's two different issues.
Right. It's just I think some of the explanation of this phenomenon is kind of mythical. We'll see.
Yeah, it could be.
Or legendary. That's a good word.
All right. Before we get into that, let's do our regular shout outs. Faceless Villain, I always shout that out, if you haven't got it yet. If you read it and liked it, please leave a review. I'm still working on volume 2. It's going a little slower than I thought, but I did actually get a couple chapters done this week, so...
You must be on around 10 then, chapter 10 or so.
Chapter 9.
Chapter 9, okay.
Yeah, and it's less than 20 chapters, and some of the chapters are longer than others because, if you read the first volume, you know that each chapter is a year, and some of the years had a shit ton of cases, and some of the years only had 1 or 2. Some of the chapters are going to be longer than others, but hopefully I'm still hoping to have it out by early summer. I'm really going to try.
And a recording done.
Yeah. And that takes much longer, but I at least want the print and ebook up by summer and then hopefully the audiobook too, but we'll see how that goes. If you didn't see our last movie review, it was David Cronenberg's The Brood.
Yeah. One of my favorites.
It's so good. It's I hadn't seen it in such a long time and I forgot how much I liked it.
Yeah.
So that's up there if you haven't seen it. Also, check out our Zazzle store at zazzle.com/13o'clock and all our t-shirts and
merch.
And tote bag. And hopefully all of our $20 and up patrons have got their tote bags. I've heard from a couple people that got them.
Yeah, they like them.
That have already got them, yeah.
Cool.
So, because I sent them out last week. I think I sent them out on the 15th or 16th. If you haven't got it, let me know, but they should have probably all got there by now, except maybe for the one guy in Australia. But we'll see how that goes. And also, speaking of Patreon, we want to welcome 2 new patrons, Duncan and Tina. Hi, and thank you.
Thanks, guys.
And also, I would like to give a shout out to 2 people who gave us some donations on PayPal.
Yeah.
And that would be Eric and Richard. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Heavy hitters.
Yeah, that was very, very nice of you and much appreciated.
Very much so.
All right, so we're going to do some news stories. This one, like, like I said, I like to do like a paranormal one whenever we do like a paranormal show. I couldn't really find anything that substantive this week that came out on the paranormal front. But then I found another one that I want to talk to too. So the first one I want to talk about is just this little, this was actually in the March 21st edition of the British paper, The Express. And evidently there's a guy, I don't know what his name is actually, but he posted a video. Now he says that he'd been hearing stuff in his office or his workplace or whatever. And he wanted to like set up a CCTV camera and see what was going on and everything. So the video, which is on YouTube, as far as I know, like I found it, I'll put it in our YouTube video. It's really short. It's just like 30 seconds or something like that. And it's called Ghost Boy Under the Stairs. Yeah. And it's basically, and I hate that they filmed it in fucking portrait mode. Yeah. So sorry about that. I hate that shit. That's just how they filmed it. Yeah, that's just how they filmed it. But, yeah, so it's like a staircase. And then there's like a little figure that kind of looks like it could be a little ghostly kid or something like that. Like kind of floating or walking kind of. Right. I showed it to you.
Yeah, it's a trip.
It's cool looking.
I don't know if I buy it, but it is something to look into.
I don't know. I don't know. But like I said, there's not like a huge amount of details about it. That was one of the few paranormal stories that came up this week. It looks like it
might have been something that you could modify on like Movie Maker or something like that, huh?
Well, that's the thing. It's like you really can't. You can
fake anything.
You
nowadays.
can fake stuff super easy. Yeah. So I don't know. Like at this point, I don't know what to think anymore. Yeah, it's a cool looking video. Do I think it's a ghost? No, probably not. Yeah. But so if you want to go, if you're not watching our YouTube show where I'm actually putting the video into our video,
it is kind of a creepy shot though.
It is kind of a creepy shot. Then you can go on YouTube and it's called Ghost Boy Under the Stairs, and you can watch it on there. It's only a few seconds long. Supposedly filmed at 2 a.m. on March 17th, this little ghost, okay?
Yeah, it's funny because you can't trust video anymore. I remember video, photographic evidence was usually the evidence, the end-all and be-all. Now you can make any image you want. You could actually get a real photograph of a UFO coming down, landing, and some aliens coming out and shaking hands with other people and leaving, and people go, that was fake. And it might even be a real video.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like there's just no way. Yeah. Like there's no way. But like I said, you can do it so much easy now. I mean, like newspapers like the Weekly World News have been doing it since the fucking 70s when you had to cut everything out by hand and all of this.
Yeah, it looked fake.
It did look fake and shitty. It's like now you can make everything look super realistic. So it's like you can't believe anything anymore.
Well, look at the movies they can make.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I'm going to go Hollywood.
So the other news story, so I said, well, that wasn't really that exciting of a news story, so I wanted to find another one. And this one actually kind of made sort of big news. Yeah. Probably anybody familiar with, paranormal or UFO type circles is familiar with the Atacama skeleton.
Yeah, it's a little bitty,
like
skeleton.
6-inch skeleton.
Yeah, right. A little body, and it looks like a little alien.
Yeah. Right. It was found in Chile in 2003. Mm-hmm. And ever since it was found, it is very weird looking. It's very small, but then it almost looks like a little grown-up skeleton, but it's super tiny. And then the head is kind of like big and pointy, and it has like weird shaped eyes and stuff.
Yeah, but not as big as it should be for being an infant, though. Yeah. It's actually almost adult proportions if you really put it next to an infant. Yeah. You go, damn, that head is much smaller than it should be. And the body, because of it's so thin and elongated, it looks kind of like an adult skeleton.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's pretty fucked up looking.
Right.
But almost as soon as this little skeleton was found, predictably, all the UFO people was like, well, obviously it's an alien.
Yeah, it's an alien.
Because it doesn't...
Kind of like the Star Child,
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. It's like a pointy head and like these weird like alien-y looking eyes and shit like that. It was a mummified skeleton. So from the start... Scientists that actually studied this thing, they knew that it was a human skeleton, that it was like that it was a fetus, obviously a premature baby.
And as a backstory, the person who brought this to the public eye, and gave it to these scientists was a guy named Stephen Greer. And if you ever, he's a big UFO
conspiracy
dude, right?
theory guy.
Yeah, this shit here, man. If you ever watch any of his movies, most of it he's trying desperately to tie UFOs in with young men in their underwear working out. Every one of his UFO movies involves young men in their underwear working out, talking about extraterrestrials.
That's
maybe
hysterical.
extra testicles. I don't know, but it's something like that. I don't,
How funny.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying.
Well, the thing about it is that, like...
Stephen Greer's into
But it seems like a weird, like... Which is fine, but it's like, why don't you just separate those two things? Like, why don't you make, like, a UFO thing over here, and then you can make, like, some porn over here?
Because if you're gonna make...
It just seems weird to, like, kind of just try and, like...
Not when
force that into like a UFO thing when it's like nothing to do with it.
Well,
it's just really
Greer's
funny.
got his privileges.
Maybe that's his like specific fetish.
Oh yeah,
he's like,
that's definitely
he's like,
his
fetish. Well, it's not doing anything for me if it's just guys working out in their underwear. There has to be UFO stuff in there too. Otherwise, it
gives him an excuse to get these strapping young men into his clutches, I guess. I don't know. Just like the old exploitation directors of Hollywood, I guess, Yeah.
Kind
of like Ed Wood, Ed Wood had to make excuses for his cross-dressing.
To wear an Angora sweater.
I have to wear an Angora sweater in this scene just because.
Yeah. It is kind of like that,
It's like that, yeah.
So, yeah. All right. So, anyway... Pretty much since the beginning, even though this is very famous skeleton in UFO circles, scientists have known from the beginning this is a human skeleton. Well, now they've done a complete, genetic breakdown of its DNA and stuff like that at Stanford University and the University of California, San Francisco. And they have discovered that this little skeleton... I mean, we were talking about this on our walk today. I said, You know how when some people say they won the genetic lottery?
Yeah.
Okay, this poor kid... This is the opposite of that. Right. This baby pretty much had every genetic mutation you could
possibly
think of.
Have,
I mean,
right.
You know what I mean? It's horrible. I mean, obviously the kid didn't live. It was born prematurely and stuff like that. It doesn't have two of its ribs. And, it's just really, it looks like, like you said, the proportions look adult, even though it's obviously very
super tiny,
super tiny.
They thought it might have progeria too, right?
I don't know if that specifically, but they did say that it did have some kind of rapid aging genetic mutation that made it have the proportions of a 6-year-old kid, rather than a fetus.
Yeah.
They also said that it had cranioectodermal dysplasia. And Greenberg skeletal dysplasia, and also that caused the pointed skull with the ridges and stuff. That's what causes that. There's also mutations in a couple of genes that cause the femur to be shaped like a club, and it had several other mutations that caused deformities of the arms. But the interesting thing about it also had scoliosis. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing this right, but Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a joint or connective tissue disease. The interesting thing, though, is that what they think caused it. The skeleton itself is only 40 years old. It was mummified when they found it. Like I said, they found it in Chile. They think that the birth defects were maybe caused by nitrate poisoning, because there's a lot of that in the soil, like from mining and stuff like that.
So it was a woman probably working around fertilizer?
Yeah, something of that nature. So they think that's what caused it. But they said it's interesting because they had never really seen all of this particular suite of genetic abnormalities like in one individual.
So it's mutated to hell.
Pretty
really.
much, So they said in a lot of ways it's useful that they did that because, now that we've seen that and we know what probably caused it, we can help other people that had that.
So I guess that's why it was such a mystery. It wasn't anything deep, dark secret. Some girl working in the field had a stillbirth.
Yeah.
And basically just buried it or put it somewhere. May have never been buried or it would have been lost. Probably wrapped up and stored somewhere.
Yeah, maybe.
It looks like it was dried out.
It was mummified.
Yeah, Chile, very high altitude, dry air. Okay, yeah.
But that's why. So, like I said, not an alien, no mystery. Just a tragically genetic, whole host of genetic mutations.
The other thing that was kind of like this was that Star Child skull. Yeah. And the last I heard was that wasn't really made out of bone. It was more closer to tooth enamel.
Yeah.
And that's probably something similar to that, And that is old, though. They found that was centuries old.
Yeah.
So that was some kind of a Mayan or Aztec, Inca, and probably something like that. Mesoamerican, Indian And I think they found it buried with or basically buried in a cave, but not really, you know what I mean? They just laid him in a cave, like in a display, along with its mother, evidently.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of mutations back then, you know?
You
don't know what was going on in those old cities. There was lots of inbreeding, cannibalism, toxic. They were around in a toxic waste. A lot, you know.
Well, and I told you that I have
prenatal care, so anything could be. You could bring any kind of kid to birth. There was no way to.
Yeah.
And there seems to be some evidence for the Mesoamericans to kind of like honoring birth defected children as some kind of a signal from the gods. Yeah. Because they kept them.
But I told you, I was telling you this earlier today, that years ago I read this book, and I think it's just called Mutations. I can't remember who wrote it. It's a fascinating book. I mean, it's scary and like depressing as all hell, but it was a fascinating book because it just tells you, you know, all the things that can go wrong. And it doesn't really take that much. There's like one little letter off and something like that. And then you just have all these horrifying mutations. And reading that, I'm like, now I'm kind of shocked that most people come out pretty much normal.
It's the same with like a computer.
Like so easy for things to go wrong.
Same with like a computer program, you know, if you just change one letter in the code and the program.
It's exactly like that. Right. It's like sometimes it can happen and nothing bad will happen, but sometimes one letter changes and just
Yeah, I think we've kind of evolved to have a certain amount of errors in our genomes, and we're still basically healthy. I think we all have some errors in there, but
of course.
They're not coming to fruition. They're not doing anything. Yeah. Evidently, a lot of our genetic code is just stuff that's turned off. Yeah. Like how to make gills and how to make scales and, you know, the insect stuff.
Yeah, it's stuff we don't need anymore. It's still in there.
Yeah, and you could have a lot of errors in that, and it doesn't make any difference because it's turned off.
Yeah. All right. So those are our news stories. So now let's get into our main topic. We're talking about the episode of A Haunting that was about Bobby Mackey's. Yeah. And we're also going to talk, we're going to talk a little bit about the case. I'm going to talk a little bit about...
Zach.
We're going to talk a little bit about Ghost Adventures. Because Ghost Adventures went to this place. Now, they say they went 3 times, but they did they did 2 shows. And actually, Bobby Mackey's was their premiere episode. Episode 1, season 1.
He's been back to it several times. Yeah. And they spent a lot of time yelling and challenging ghosts. And that's Zach, though. Yeah. You know, I'm not talking about... The Haunting handles it differently. I actually like the way the Haunting handles itself on its programs. You know what I mean? They don't try to go down there and confront anything. They're just going to tell you the story, try to reenact it.
Yeah, which I actually appreciate. Yeah. So this was actually, now it's season 2 episode, right? I think it's season 2, episode 7. Yeah. The episode itself is called Gateway to Hell. Yeah. Which, you know, will become clear why it's called that. We're going to get into it. All right. So let's talk about...
And I hope you guys are falling asleep with headphones on, because last time we were giving people nightmares. Remember when we were talking about serial killers?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, all right. Well, and some of them are probably commuting to work. So to our new listeners that show up, you know, when we do these old haunting episodes, it's kind of a tribute to a haunting, and we kind of poke fun at it sometimes too, you know, and we kind of point out things that kind of maybe don't look right, or maybe they do look right. Just depends on the situation. So I guess we can get down to it now. Yeah. Just kind of giving some background in case we got new.
One thing I would like to mention is that, I mean, if you've watched as many episodes of A Haunting as we have, they have a stable of actors that they use over and over again. Yeah. So it should be noted that the woman that plays Bobby Mackey's wife in this reenactment is the same woman that was on The Haunting of Summerwind.
That's right.
She's been on a bunch of other ones too.
Haunting of Summerwind. It's almost part of the Crustle Sphere.
It is, yeah. Yes. And the woman at the end of the episode who plays the psychic who comes and like checks the place out. Yeah. It's the weird forehead woman from the Billy Bean episode, which I can't remember the name of it. She plays Billy Bean's mom.
Her hairline is kind of far back on her head.
Yeah, so it's just like, you know, so she can't help it. I know.
Yeah,
it's like, but I'm just like, it's forehead lady.
That's how you remember.
That's how I remember, because I don't know what her name is. Okay. Sorry, forehead lady. But yeah, she appears in this one too, like later on as a psychic. So like I said, we get all these same actors
we have all
or
these
actresses.
Little names and shit. Raccoon Man's always going to be Raccoon Man.
He's been in a shit ton of them. He's in a shit ton of them, yeah. And the woman that's in this one and that was in Haunting of Summerwind, she's in a shit ton of them too. But yeah, so this one, it happens in Wilder, Kentucky. Yeah. Now, the building, and this is interesting too, because Bobby Mackey's, they usually use a different house, like for the reenactment, obviously. Yeah. Now, this one I was actually surprised to find when I was looking at it, they actually use the real place.
Yeah, and it is that dump.
It is very dumpy.
It is that dump that they show. Yeah. Although I tell you what, later on when Zach goes there to do his little show at it, it looked a lot better.
Yeah, it looked like they've made some improvements.
And I wondered if it had something to do with ghost tourism.
Because
they got those damn ghost signs on outside up there, so I would think that
that's another thing that kind of makes
we can get into that, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of makes me think like they exaggerate a little bit.
Yeah,
because honestly, Bobby Mackey and his wife's name is Janet.
Yeah.
And they bought this place in 1978.
Yeah.
This is in Wilder, Kentucky.
And think about that, 78. That's a year after Star Wars: A New Hope. And that was a long fucking time.
And this shit is still open. It's still open.
Yeah, it's still open. So it's a successful business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bobby Mackey, I'm not up on old school country music or anything like that, so I don't know how famous he was at the point that he bought, at that time, my uncle, Red, and I talk about it in Mountain Poltergeist, he was a country western performer during that era. And even in California, it was a big scene. Yeah. Yeah, it was coming back. All this stuff, this Garth Brooks stuff, that was actually much later. That was way after the popularity craze of country western. Country western had a really big resurgence in the early 80s, late 70s in California. So, like I said,
I don't know why.
Yeah.
That's some people like it, but
okay. So evidently, it's Bobby Mackey's dream. He's always wanted to open like a music hall, live venue, country western bar and stuff like that. And he buys this place, which he names after himself. Now, it's funny because in the episode, he's all excited about it. Yeah. And it looks like a dump, because in there it's all gross and dirty and everything. Yeah. And he's just all, I can imagine it. He's all excited. And then he brings his wife there, the Haunting of Summerwind lady, and she just makes a face. Like, she gets out of the car and looks at it and makes a face like, fuck my life. She just I really liked the face that she made.
Yeah, like she farted in her spacesuit.
It was that kind of face. So she gets out and she's kind of like, now the interesting thing is they had...
I just had the image of being in a spacesuit. Never mind, go ahead.
Well, it's funny because every time you say that, it reminds me of, because I had actually first...
2001.
Well, I had first heard it on Mystery Science Theater. I think it was, I can't remember which episode it was, but I think it was Crow that said...
What are you doing, Dave?
Turns out it's not funny at all when you fart in a spacesuit.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I think it was Phantom Planet, actually. I think that was the episode.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
All right. So anyway, so Bobby Mackey, the real Bobby Mackey, is on there talking. Now, his wife only wanted to be seen in silhouette. Yeah. Which I thought was weird, but whatever. Yeah. So she's on there talking.
Camera shy.
And she was kind of like, well, she wasn't jazzed, obviously, about buying this place. But she's like, well, that's what he always wanted, so I just kind of went along with it, because you know how that happens. Right. So...
Man gonna be a man.
Man gonna be a man, and this is what he wanted to do. So they're like, okay, fine.
Man said he could.
Right. Yeah. Now, the first thing that happens is, basically, the first time he brings her to the place to show it to her, the door opens by itself. Yeah. So she says she sees the doorknob go around and it opens up. And then she's like, hey, did you see that? And he's like, what? What are you talking about? I didn't see nothing. Whatever. Come on, let's go check this shit out. Right. So they go in there. Now, immediately, Janet says that she did not have a good feeling about the place. Like, she walks in and she's like, ew, I don't like it in here. It's like, not just because it was gross and dirty and it was going to be a lot of work and shit like that. But she's like, I just had a bad feeling. It seemed like oppressive and all this other kind of shit. And apparently, and I'm not totally sure how true this is, but the bar that it had been before, evidently there'd been like a bunch of murders and like fights and so. I mean, fights, it's a bar. What are you going to do? But I mean, evidently there had been like 6 homicides, I think, well, and that which led to it closing down.
If a bar's been there for a long time, that happens. Remember, like where we hang out at iBar, just up the street, and this is right there on Orange Ave, Taboo. When that place was called Taboo, 2 doors down. I think there was a couple guys that got shot and killed in there.
I think you're right.
And then somebody, you remember, what's that one bouncer that we had that now works with Josh, right?
Yeah.
Remember that bouncer, Josh? He kicked that one guy out. That dude went to his car,
the door,
came back with that little .22 pistol and started shooting at the back door.
Yeah. He didn't hurt anybody. But,
no, but they caught, and what was so stupid is that the police department is right there. Yeah, they just came out and arrested him. He was drunk.
Yeah, it's dumb. Yeah. The club we hang out at, like the police station, is literally right like 3 doors down or something like that.
Right.
So yeah, stupid.
So yeah, it happens more often than you think.
Yeah. So they buy the place and everything. Now they're in there talking, and this guy named Carl Lawson shows up. And he says, okay, well, I worked in this club when it was the old owners. He's like, so I wondered, I'm doing handyman shit and everything like that. So he's like, so I wondered if you would give me a job and stuff. So, Bobby Mackey's like, okay, cool. Now, Carl was kind of the one that told him, yeah, this was like a really rough place. A lot of people got murdered. There was fights all the time and shit like that. I don't think... He didn't really, on the reenactment, he didn't really tell them at the beginning, hey, the shit's haunted. I think he just basically said... He basically said the place had some bad vibes. It had a bad vibe, or it had a bad history. From what I remember. And, that there was bad shit going on there. He knew the ins and outs of the place, that he could help keep it up and running. And so they gave him a little apartment up in the loft. Yeah. So you could live there. He later moved up. Yeah, he was like the caretaker, and he was there like pretty much all the time. I think the next major thing that happened after that was the police... No, actually, the next thing that happened, and this was a kind of a major thing. Yeah. Now, Janet was pregnant at the time. Now, to the audience, when I look at these cases, I always like to look at the genesis of the case. The first things that happened. Yeah. Because you notice, the more investigators get involved in these things, especially TV show type investigators, more things happen, or more claims happen. One of the things I like about the hauntings take on this is they talk about the very beginning of the case, the first things that happen. I always think that that's most important to set the tone, because I think that's probably closer to the truth, and that is probably more likely to be something that actually did happen. Yeah. Because as these other investigators come in, especially if they're with TV shows, it's in their best interest for phenomena to happen. So if they got a claim that something happened to add more on to it, they're going to do it. Of course, you see Zach running around. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? And you can't hear anything. I didn't hear anything. Pretty much the whole time that he went around doing, did you hear that? Oh my God. No, Zach, I didn't hear anything. Challenge me, fight me, demon. And all that kind of stuff. Get the fuck out of here. Okay. Stupid douchey hair. Yeah. But anyway. He got his hair brushed this way, and he got some hair that way, and the other hair goes that way. I don't understand it. I don't understand. Another hair is going that way. I don't understand what he's going for. He's got Caesar going on one side, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And then kind of like a Marilyn Manson type. It's like some of it's up, some of it's forward. And it's not like, he's not balding or anything like that. So it's not like. He works out. Yeah. So it's not like he's combing it forward to hide a bald spot. No. He's not bald. It just looks like it's crazy looking. Walks around and he's kind of posing, Yeah. He's going to fight those ghosts, Yeah. With his biceps. I guess. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about that later. Yeah, okay. Because it was I can't believe I had to sit through 2 hours. I know, and I watched both episodes. I think I saw most of both. Yeah, because you were kind of. I couldn't take it. Sometimes I had to go get more coffee or something. I can't. I find it hard to sit there. I just really do. Yeah. But okay, so actually, the first thing that happened, other than the door opening, that was the first thing that happened, and then. And this was kind of a major thing. This was before they even opened. So they were still trying to clean it up and get it all getting ready for the public to come in. Now, Janet, I think she was 5 or 6 months pregnant when they bought the place. She's in the kitchen. I don't think Bobby Mackey is there. Carl was there, but he was in the other room. And she's in there and she starts hearing, I think she hears like the pots and stuff start rattling around. And then she looks in the kitchen sink and blood starts coming up through the drain. This scene always stuck with me. Yeah. Yeah, this was actually one of the scenes that I remembered the best from this episode. This is one of the scenes I remember best from that season of The Haunting. That was a pretty good scene. It's a very iconic scene. It was filmed well. So the whole sink fills up with blood. Yeah. And then evidently she says that she felt a hand in the middle of her back pushing her toward the sink and trying to force her head down into the blood. Yeah. So she's fighting to keep out, to not get in there and stuff like that. And she starts screaming and freaking out. One hand on either side of that sink trying to fight it, and it's pulling her down like a face hugger or something out of Alien. Yeah, it's trying to push her down to the sink full of blood. She starts screaming and everything. Carl comes running in there and she tells him what happened, but the blood's gone. Yeah, it was like a vision. Now, Carl did believe her. However, they go and tell Bobby Mackey. Yeah. And Bobby's like, man, fuck all y'all. Yeah, he's like, stop telling her, you're scaring her. Yeah, even though he hadn't, it didn't seem like he had told her anything about any kind of haunting or anything like that. Not according to the program. Not according to the program. Right. So I thought Bobby Mackey was being kind of a jerk Because he was just kind of like, whatever. Yeah. You're just like telling her these stories, and her poor little lady brain is like imagining
Which is kind of typical out of the haunting, where the guys don't believe it at first.
It is, yeah.
And actually, Bobby Mackey to this day doesn't really believe it.
Yeah,
he says
he says.
Says he's never seen it.
He said, well, I'm not discounting that other people have seen stuff, but he says he's never seen anything.
Yeah. Right.
And he doesn't think it's haunted. Right. Or that's what he says anyway.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah. Okay, so then the next thing that happened, and this was actually a cop saw this. Yeah. So evidently...
This is, I think, one of the strongest incidences in this case.
Yeah, so the cop is, his name's Larry Hornsby, and he's driving past the place, and he sees someone in the window, and it's like the middle of the night. The place is closed. It hasn't even opened to the public yet, I don't think. He sees someone in the window, so he thinks someone has broken in.
Yeah.
So him and his little partner, they go into the building, and then they hear music coming from the back room. So they think somebody broke in. Yeah. They go back in there, and no one's in there.
Yeah.
And then they hear voices, like they hear a man and woman like arguing. And then they hear the door of the club slam.
Yeah.
Even though no one's out there. So they go out. Yeah. They
got spooked. They got spooked and went out to the parking lot, and they were kind of shaken by it, according to the police witness that was in the program.
Yeah, exactly.
And I always thought that police witness, of course, is pretty good, because it's hard to get a cop on board with your story.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's always a chance that this might be one of Bobby Mackey's buddies, one of his regular patrons or something. But I think it's more likely that something like that did happen.
And like,
it was
two cops. It was two cops,
and there's more to it, because later there was an accident.
Yeah.
And somebody got killed right out in front of that place. I think it was the same night, wasn't it?
I don't know. No, I don't think it was the same night.
In that time period, maybe a few weeks later.
Yeah.
A person got killed in a car accident right out in front of the club, and while they were there, they heard the door open up, and a woman came out with some tablecloths and gave them some tablecloths to use as
to cover the bodies up.
Cover the bodies up and use them kind of clean up. And then after the crime scene had been cleared, or the accident scene had been cleared, they go back to the club to thank that woman. And I think Bobby Mackey's wife said, "There's nobody here, just me." Didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, or actually no one was in there.
Or was it no one in there?
Yeah, no one was in there. So they didn't find anybody. So they didn't know who that woman was. Right. And they said they saw her like plain as day, that she was like a real person.
And I think they said that she was in a dress and was barefoot. Kind of strange.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
Yeah.
So then the next thing that happened was apparently, now Janet thinks that whatever is in this club, that is haunting this club, has specifically has some beef with her, because it did seem to attack her a lot, and Carl too. But like I said, Bobby Mackey said he never saw anything in there. So evidently they're still kind of cleaning the place up. Carl's up on, he breaks like a light bulb or something like that, and he goes down to get another one, and she's sweeping it up. She's at the top of the stairs, and all of a sudden something starts pushing her down the stairs. Like the way they showed it, it wasn't just like push and she fell. It was like they were that there was like a hand on her. It was like trying to like push her down the stairs, like slowly, like it was a force like coming down, like pushing her down the stairs.
Right.
And she did eventually fall down the stairs, and she turned around and looked up when she got to the bottom of the stairs, and she says she saw a guy, like a ghost that kind of just went
away,
Yeah, like he was like in old-fashioned clothes or whatever. Now, at that point, they actually had to take her to the hospital because she was pretty badly hurt. She actually gave birth to the baby because they thought she was going to have a miscarriage. And the baby only weighed, I think they said it only weighed like 1.5 pounds.
Right, it was premature, born.
I'm assuming that the baby didn't die because they didn't bring it back up again.
Right.
But yeah, the baby was premature because she fell down the stairs or was pushed down the stairs by a ghost. We're not really sure which. And then it seemed like it was kind of quiet for a few weeks. And then they opened the club to the public. And Bobby is telling Carl, because I guess Carl is still working there. He's like, tending bar and shit like that. And he's like, don't be telling people these ghost stories and all this other kind of shit. So then later on, for some reason, Carl is in the storage room. I know.
Carl. I can't do his voice as good, dude. Carl.
Okay, so Carl is in the storage room, and he sees there's like a poem that's like written on the wall or scratched on the wall. There's photos of it online if you want to see it. I can't remember what it says exactly, but
it's a pretty badly written poem, actually.
Well, and for whatever reason, he finds or he steps on like a loose floorboard, and he pulls up the floorboard, and evidently there's a diary in there that's like wrapped in a piece of fabric. Now the diary says that it belongs to someone named Johanna.
Yeah.
And in this diary, evidently, Johanna, she was a dancer there, when the club was called the Latin Quarter, and this was like in the 40s or 50s.
Yeah. Now, has anyone ever seen this diary?
I don't know. I just
that's an interesting question. Where is this diary? Has it been authenticated? Because it was supposedly from the 20s, is what they're claiming.
No, from the 50s.
From the 50s? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was the 20s. But still, even that. You have to date that thing from the 50s to see if it was really from the 50s. I'd like to see it. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, this angle of the story, I have a hard time accepting.
Yeah, I'm not real sure about this one.
Yeah.
So evidently Johanna, like I said, was a dancer at this club, and she was the daughter of the owner. And evidently she fell in love with a guy that sang there. And apparently her dad did not approve and used his mob ties or whatever to have the dude killed. So Johanna then poisoned her dad and then killed herself.
Yeah, you see, something like this is just, it sounds too much like a plot from a romance novel.
It could have happened.
It could have happened, but
sure,
there should be plenty of documentation about this particular crime. Murder-suicide. Two murders and then a murder-suicide.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And as far as I know, and, you know, if you've seen it, like, please correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, there is no record of this particular murder-suicide.
Very, very suspicious. And let's say you're this girl. Your dad killed your boyfriend. So you're going to kill your own dad and then kill yourself. And you're going to bury your diary underneath the floorboards of where you work. That's usually not what you do before you commit a murder or kill yourself, is to take all your stuff and bury them underneath your work. That would just be a book that was on your dresser drawer or something, on your nightstand drawer.
Yeah, unless someone else put it there.
I just have a hard...
It does seem very weird.
This sounds suspicious. It sounds like someone trying to give an explanation for some phenomena. Like, let's say there's some mysterious phenomena. Maybe it's paranormal. There has to be a reason why it's happening. So, might be a good idea to make a reason.
Yeah.
That's just what it feels like to me.
Oh, I should say, I said the 50s, didn't I?
Yeah.
I actually meant the 30s.
Yeah, that's what I said.
It's from the 30s, yeah.
I thought it was 20s.
I was thinking of something else. I don't know why. Sorry about that. I spaced out. Yeah, it
there would
was
still
from the 30s.
be a lot of records.
That's what I mean. There should be something, and I really don't think that there is.
Yeah, and it just that angle of this it doesn't ring true to me.
It seems too good to be true.
Too good to be true, and very unlikely that a diary would be buried underneath the floorboards of where a girl worked. Although she said her dad, I guess evidently her dad owned the place.
That's how the story goes.
Went.
Yeah.
Why would you bury your diary?
I don't know. It just doesn't.
I'm not buying that part.
Yeah.
I'd have to see that diary.
Yeah.
I'd have to have that thing dated. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I'd have to send it to a forensic place and say, yeah, that's from that period. You know, oh yeah, that syntax and the grammar and the spellings, yeah, that's from the 30s.
I mean, it's a good story though, and actually, Bobby Mackey liked the story so much that he wrote a song about it called Johanna.
Yeah, you're not gonna put that at the end, are you?
Yeah, I am.
Oh my god,
just a little bit of it.
Johanna.
Yeah, they used it on the Ghost Adventure show. Yeah, they used it on the Ghost Adventure show. Too.
Okay,
I'll just put like
put it on the end. Go ahead.
I will.
Go ahead.
Actually, let's take a break right now, and then we'll come back and talk about the rest of the thing, and we'll talk about Ghost Adventure and all that. So we'll be back in just a few minutes.
All right.
All right, we're back talking about a haunting, Bobby Mackey's.
Yeah.
Now, the next thing that happened on the reenactment was that Carl, who by this point has moved into the club, lives in an apartment over the club, which as far as I know is still there. He doesn't live there. He's dead now, but he died a couple years ago. But so he's up there sleeping, and evidently the power goes out. So Carl goes down to check the breakers, and he's in the basement and finds a trapdoor, which he had never seen before. So he opens the trapdoor, and there's a really big, deep well. And, you know, it goes all the way down. It's like on the reenactment, it looks like it's like super deep. There is a well there. You know, there's pictures of it all over the internet. I'll put some in the video. It doesn't look deep. I can't tell if it's just because it's been blocked off or what the deal is. This well, apparently, is from when, the building itself, I'm not sure how long that's been there, but evidently the basement part of it used to be part of a slaughterhouse.
So
like back in the 1850s. Yeah, so like the foundation.
Right.
And evidently this well in the basement was where they used to toss all the, leftover guts and stuff like that they weren't using.
Wash them down into
wash them down. And because it actually does go into the Licking River.
Yeah.
So it washes down into that. And actually on the Ghost Adventure show, they did show Zach and them backtracking through the...
Yeah. I bet you the fishing was good outside that place.
Oh, I bet.
Probably have 30-pound catfish, 80-pound catfish out there.
Right. Yeah. And then at this point, since all this weird shit is happening, they decide they're going to look into the history of the building. Now, here is something that actually did happen, but I don't really know if the association with the place is all that authentic.
Yeah.
So
this is a more of a compelling angle for me, actually.
Yeah. In the late 1800s, I think it was 1896, there was a 22-year-old woman named Pearl Bryan, and she was murdered. Now, her headless body was found 2.5 miles away from the site of Bobby Mackey's.
Yeah, well, that's in the area, but that's really just in the area.
Right. Now, 2 guys were convicted for her murder.
Yeah.
Their names were Alonzo Walling and Scott Jackson. Now, her head was never found. So this story grew up that they had tossed the head down the well of this slaughterhouse or whatever it was at the time.
But wouldn't they have had to break in to do that?
That's what I mean. I'm
why
not
would you have to toss it down a well?
Now, see, here's the thing.
Sacrifice?
I think that might be like a later interpolation because she was killed. She was pregnant.
Yeah.
And the 2 guys who killed her, and they were later hanged for her murder, but they were dental students.
Yeah.
And they speculated that they were trying to give her an abortion.
And it botched.
And messed it up.
Yeah.
And they cut off her head so it would be harder to identify her.
Sounds more likely than sacrifice.
Right. It's like, so I can't believe that they're like dental students and they're just like, teeth, abortions, how hard can it be?
Well, they knew anatomy. They knew anatomy. They were just going to stick something down in there and pop the head of that little guy.
I guess so. But yeah.
That's the way they used to do it.
Yeah, I know.
And so they made a wrong move, and she started bleeding out and bled to death.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, we're going to get in trouble.
We're going to get in trouble. We're linked to her. Well, maybe if we can make her unidentifiable, you know what I mean? Or we'd have some plausible deniability. And then they probably just threw that head in the river. All right. Why would they want to break into a slaughterhouse and throw it down inside of a well? It just doesn't sound.
That's what I mean. That seemed a little weird. It's like because the well went down to the river anyway. So it's like why didn't you just throw it in the river? Just cut out the middleman.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Because breaking an entry is just another crime they could pin on you.
Right.
And you're going out of your way to do that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think they just chucked the head and they got caught.
And
I'm not sure I buy the satanic.
Yeah, see, because later on, and I don't know, like I said, where this, or, how long ago this particular story came about, but the rumor started to swirl that one of the guys was a Satanist and that he had actually thrown the head down there for like sacrificial purposes or anything like that.
Just sounds unlikely.
But like I said, I think really it was just a botched abortion. Yeah. They killed her and they didn't want her to be identified. Yeah. So, so that's why they threw the head away.
Satanism was not a thing until Anton LaVey.
That's what I mean. It just seems like kind of a strange...
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it seems good for that long ago. I'm not saying it's impossible. It just sounds a little far-fetched. That's all.
Yeah, unlikely.
Yeah. So then the next thing, they decide they're going to get a psychic to come in there. And this is the forehead lady who's playing the...
It dawned on me that what you have is somebody who's just trying to tie in every bad crime in the area to the club. Yeah. Oh, yeah, they brought the head in here and yeah. So it's kind of like a literary device.
Well, and like I'm saying, evidently it's been several different nightclubs over the years.
Now, if they had found her body in there, then maybe I'd go with that story.
Yeah, but the body, like I said, was found 2.5 miles away, and the head was never found.
Right.
That's never been confirmed that they tossed the head. Everyone just assumed.
Yeah, and just because I don't believe in the satanic sacrifice story, and I don't believe in the Johanna story, that doesn't mean that I'm going to throw the haunting out. The haunting might be there. It may be that somebody's trying to weave those two other stories in there to have some kind of an explanation for why it's happening.
Yeah.
And of course it's better if your haunting has a story. Yeah. You can now sell it as a product, which later on we'll get into that because I think that's kind of what they're doing with this.
Yeah. Right. I should note there was also, I think I forgot to mention this, but Carl actually also reported some sort of poltergeist activity because, like I said, he lived above the club, and when he came down there one night, like kind of cleaning up after everyone else was gone, all the chairs, you turn all the chairs and stools like upside down on the tables, and they all started rattling, and like something just like flew off the tables and stuff like that. Yeah, and so that freaked him out.
Yeah, and not to mention possession happens in this case.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get to that.
Well, that was pretty much the next thing. Okay. So Carl starts acting really weird. Right. He's actually seen 2 apparitions, which he presumes are the 2 guys that killed Pearl Bryan. He didn't say this, but in the reenactment, they had like nooses around their necks or whatever. Now, so they call a psychic, and she comes in there. Patricia Michelle, her name is. That's the real lady. And she comes in there and she says that she sees the 2 guys, and they're standing behind Carl, and they want to use his body, to do whatever they're going to do.
Damn.
Also,
is this a nightclub or is this prison?
Yeah, right. And also, evidently, she goes down into the basement or the cellar and looks into the well and sees a vision of a severed head in there.
Of course.
Yeah. So that's how that went. Evidently, she also talks to a spirit who says her name is Johanna, and she's like, she tries to send Johanna into the light or what have you, and Johanna says she doesn't want to go.
Right, that way you can keep the haunting going, and you can keep the signs. Okay.
Right. Yeah, so at this point, Carl's starting to act really weird, and it's weird because they kind of conflate demon possession with him being possessed by these 2 guys.
Right.
So I don't know how that works, but whatever. So they call in a minister and his 2 helpers, and they do an exorcism in the kitchen for whatever reason. And evidently they get the 2 spirits out of Carl, but I guess they're still around, like in the place. Now, shortly after, like this is kind of getting near the end of the episode. So evidently Carl leaves because he's just like, I can't take any more of this place. And the way they filmed the end of the episode, they show Carl leaving, and then they show the wife being like, yeah, I guess I'm going to go too. And I was like, she just like straight up left him and she just like walked off into the sunset. And no, that's not what happened.
Right.
She actually, as far as I know, they are still married. Like I said, the place is still open. He still owns it. But she
won't go in there.
Will not go in there. Right. She has not set foot in the place for years and years and years.
Evidently.
So she says she hasn't been in there, and
we don't know how old she is
return.
Today.
Yeah.
She's probably 60s, 70s?
She's got to be 60s or 70s, yeah, I would think. Because when did this episode come out? Like, probably 2006? I think it was 2006.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she says she won't set foot in there anymore. So, that's the episode, and like I said, there's like so much about this story that I don't know how much of it to believe.
No, this is what I'm going to say, just based upon the preponderance of the evidence. I'd say there's a 50% chance that the entire case is a fabrication and a hoax. Probably about a 40% chance that maybe something's going on there, but it's been grossly exaggerated and a lot of legend has been woven into it.
Yeah.
I'd say maybe there's only a 10% chance that it's happened in you know what? I'm going to say 5% chance that this case is happening exactly as described. That's what I'm thinking. I have a feeling that something happened there that scared Bobby Mackey's wife. Other people saw it.
Cops saw some shit.
Cops saw it. All right. It was some kind of a low-level haunting. And then they made up a bunch of stories to explain it. Yeah. And that got woven into it.
And they might not have even made them up on purpose.
I just think
they might have just heard something from someone else. And they're like, oh, that must have been what happened.
And go, oh, well, that must be it. Oh, that must be it. You know what I mean? And it kind of weave it together because in Mammoth Mountain Poltergeist, my aunt and uncle, on their own, each one of them kind of had a tendency to try to want to weave other things into it. Oh, you know, Bill Bixby's kid died up here at Mammoth Mountain. Yeah. Well, a lot of people's kids probably died up there over the years.
It's a ski resort.
Yeah, it's a ski resort, and it's huge. It's it's a town, you know what I mean, up in the mountains. So just because people have died up there, that does not explaining what's happening I
definitely do think that people are too quick
to find an explanation.
When sometimes there isn't. And especially, you know, in your case.
Oh, you know what, man? Oh, you know what? Up in these mountains, they had Indians living up here. Yeah. We must be on an Indian burial ground.
That's what I mean.
That was the next thing that they jumped to.
Maybe there's not an explanation.
There's no Indian burial ground.
Maybe if there's paranormal activity or something like that, maybe the shit just happened.
You know, there's Indian burial grounds in this area. Well, shit, man, dead people in every area you're at.
That's what I mean.
You know, people die.
So I don't really necessarily think. And the thing about Bobby Mackey's too, like I said, since it's been a nightclub for a really long time, I don't actually know if it was a slaughterhouse. That's how the story goes, that it was a slaughterhouse in the 1800s. It might not have been.
Couldn't find it.
But that's how the story goes. You know, I'm not disputing that it's been a nightclub. I'm not disputing even that there might have been like mobbed up dudes like, you know, owning it at some point because, you know, that happened. I'm not denying that there was probably some murders there.
Guys fight in those bars.
Guys fight in the bars.
And you know, remember Bobby Mackey in the program said, well, it's going to be country western. We're not going to have any of that around here.
It was a country and western bar before.
Yeah, country western scene.
He bought it.
Country western scene was violent back in the 70s and 80s. Dudes would get into big pissing matches. Sometimes they'd knife one another out in parking lots or shoot each other out in parking lots. Occasionally it happened in the bar itself. America's always been kind of a macho place. And dudes would start fighting, and if they're the wrong element, sometimes they'd kill each other, you know?
And like I said, I'm not disputing, and I'm sure...
Beat each other to death with them bar stools and hitting each other with beer bottles, you know what I mean? And guys got killed. Yeah.
And like I said, you know, if there had been some kind of mob involvement, you know, maybe... And I'm not even disputing that there might have been, like, the occasional suicide, something like that. I mean, bad things happen in those places.
Right.
But I don't know. I just really think you have to be careful
of trying to attribute
one, you know, to tie the two things together.
Yeah. Because let's say you have a scenario where a bunch of people were killed in an area, and one of those dead people is now a ghost who's causing all this.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 or 3 of these people are now ghosts. You wouldn't be able to pinpoint any one of them. It'd be very hard. You know?
Yeah.
How could you positively ID something that is invisible? You know what I mean? Because a ghost could impersonate a person.
Yeah.
Or another person.
Right.
If you're a ghost, maybe you're going to LARP it. You're going to fucking live action role play. Oh, today I'm the devil. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, tomorrow I'm going to be Rosemary's Baby.
You're totally do that.
You're going to fuck with people.
Well, yeah. So why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, you might get bored being a ghost otherwise.
I wouldn't trust what a ghost said. You know?
Well, I especially wouldn't trust what a psychic said because...
Trust no ghost.
Because a psychic can come in, and I know that a lot of psychics will come into a location and they'll be like, oh, don't tell me anything about what's going on. But it's like, you can look shit up about that, especially somewhere as famous as Bobby Mackey's.
And nowadays with the internet, oh shit.
Yeah, so you can come in and you already know all the stories about it.
Online.
So it's very easy to come in and go,
I see a headless woman. Her name is Johannesburg, Johannesburg, something like that.
Well, the headless woman was Pearl, actually.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm just pulling it out of my ass the way
that
you know. I'm not saying that phenomena doesn't happen there occasionally. I would like to go. I'd like to see it.
I would too, actually. I'd be interested to go in there.
But I don't buy any of the explanations for it. I'd take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, same here. And now, evidently, other people have seen... And let's talk a little bit about the Ghost Adventure Show because...
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
Because the Ghost Adventure Show, they actually did interview... I mean, they interviewed Bobby Mackey, who has, like I said, his whole time has said... I've never seen anything here. He's like, I'm not doubting people that have seen it, but I've never seen it. And, you know, this is just my place and I want it to be known for music. But he does have big signs everywhere that, they make a big deal about, we're not liable for if ghosts hurt you or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's like a warning at the beginning. And they do have like a wall where they have like a bunch of pictures of them with Zach and with other paranormal teams that have been
and
there.
in Zach's defense, you got to understand the burden that Ghost Adventures is under. They're trying to get an entire season of action-packed paranormal shit done.
Yeah, it has to be exciting.
And they're probably doing it all in a couple months. Maybe 90 days worth of work.
Right.
All right. So Zach's there to do a job, man. He's got to be a entertainer. One thing that show does do is they do some interviews.
Yeah.
Which that's pretty good. That's
because they did interview one guy who's kind of a regular at Bobby Mackey's, and he said that he had seen an apparition in the bathroom. He said that he was washing his hands in the men's room, and the garbage can next to him went flying across the room. He turned around like, what the fuck? And then he saw a guy. Like in old-fashioned kind of clothes. And so other people have seen things there.
So at least when they go there, they do conduct a few interviews with people. And they do give you an entertaining soundtrack. It's edited to be fast-paced and exciting, because a real paranormal investigation just is not exciting.
Well,
just
it's a bunch of sitting around.
Yeah, a bunch of sitting around, a bunch of taking notes, a bunch of setting up things.
Yeah.
A bunch of not being there.
It's not conducive to an exciting TV show.
No, because a lot of times a paranormal investigator would just bug the house, put a bunch of cameras up, and then leave. So nobody being there for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And they just sit there and record.
Well, and that's what they should do, because then you're not getting any, there's no possibility that it could be someone being in there. Days
and days of not a sound and not a single thing moving. And that's, you can't make a show on that. So we can sit here, we can bust on Zach. You know what I mean? Zach, I'm busting on you. But I do know that that's your job.
Well, yeah, that's what they have to do.
Yeah, that's what you have to
do. But
the
funniest thing about it, and like I said, they did 2 episodes on it. And the funniest thing about it, I thought, was that Zach, he makes a big deal about going in and being all Glenn Danzig about, like yelling at the ghosts and like trying to
heart of the devil.
Right, exactly. So he goes into Bobby Mackey's and basically is like dropping his nuts, being like, "Oh, you pushed a pregnant woman down the stairs." She's like, "Come fuck with me," or whatever. And then later on in the show, and I can't remember.
Mother. Go ahead.
And I can't remember.
I'm just imagining Zach as Danzig. That's awesome.
I don't know. It's just like a similar vibe.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But that's why I thought of that. I know it's a weird association. So he's like all big and bad and everything like that, saying, "Yeah, come and get me, come out and get me," and all this other kind of shit. And then later on, I don't remember if it was the first show that they did about it or the second show. Later on, evidently, one of the ghosts scratched him. There was like 3, the famous 3 scratches. But there were actually scratches there. You couldn't see it on the night vision camera, but on the regular camera you could see it. And he was like flipping the fuck out. "It burns, it's stinging, oh my God." He was like, I'm like, "It burns. You ass."
That's straight out of The Exorcist. It burns.
Well, that's why I said it. I don't remember if he said it like that.
Threw the water on it.
But burns. So I was like, so you come in here like a big swinging dick, talking about like, "Yeah, come hurt me," and then it like puts 3 little scratches down your back, and you're freaking the fuck out. Come on now. I'm like, you asked for that shit, right?
Blood and tears, blood and tears.
And didn't he kind of like a little bit? I think on the second time they were there, they had a priest there, and he had talked to the priest on the first episode, and he was saying, the priest was saying, "I don't think it's such a good idea for you to be like going in there like
all Glenn Danzig,
all Glenn Danzig, and like challenging the ghost to like hurt you and shit like that. That's really stupid."
Hey Glenn, you got knocked the fuck out, dude. That's right. Although in Glenn Danzig's defense, anybody can knock anybody out.
I've only seen like a handful of episodes of Ghost Adventures because, like I said, I have a hard time sitting through it.
Yeah.
But another thing is that Zach always kind of has to be the center of attention. Like, if anytime there's like ghosts or they have their little devices that are supposedly ghosts talking to them and stuff, the ghost always has to threaten him specifically. Yeah. It always has to say something like, "I want to kill Zach," or "I hate Zach," or something like that. I think is very telling.
I think Zach got that from, what was his name? Ryan Buell from Paranormal U. That was that show that
I don't remember that. Oh, right.
It was almost kind of like a reality show. And then Ryan Buell, I think his name is Ryan Buell, but Buell was definitely his last name, I remember. But Buell was saying that, he saw something when he was a little kid, and this is the same ghost that's following him all these years, this demon, kind of like something out of The Exorcist, and picking the priest, out of the lineup. Yeah, I want that one, that kind of deal. And then Buell ends up raising all this money for this big thing that he was going to do, and he runs off with all the cash, stole everybody's money, lost his program. Anyway, I think he was trying to do a little bit of a Ryan Buell move. Yeah. Where you're kind of like a reality TV star. It's more about you as a character than it is about
the investigation.
It's not really a paranormal program. It's entertainment. It's an entertainment. They're all, And when you look at the shit now, it's not like when we were young, where you had like In Search Of, or, programs like that where they would actually kind of look at the topic. Nowadays, television and cable TV, paranormal is like, it's like the Walmart quality. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not even Walmart quality programs. These are like Pick and Save or Big Lots. You know what I mean? I'm telling you.
Sub Walmart.
Yeah, there's only one of them that has any merit to me, Ghost Brothers. Because Ghost Brothers is funny.
That's funny.
Ghost Brothers is funny. Yeah.
At least those dudes are funny.
They're funny, yeah.
Like, they're kind of taking it seriously, but not.
But not really. So, if you're going to see
That's pretty much the only one I can sit there as Ghost Brothers. Yeah. Because I like them. They're charming, and they have, like, a good rapport with each other.
Now, they used to have Taps, and I think Taps tried to take the subject seriously for a few seasons, but then when they didn't get any results. Yeah. So it started to become a reality television program about, about the guys that are on Taps. Yeah. And there was only a couple of things that Taps ever got on video that I thought was pretty weird. One of them was a video that they took looking up the staircase of a lighthouse. You could see something kind of go up and it looked like it jumped across. That was the only thing.
I remember that video.
That damn lighthouse.
Now, I should say, like, on the Bobby Mackey episode of Ghost Adventures, I mean, this was the first show that they did. The first time they went there, that was their debut program. And then they went back like a year or two later. And they said that it was the worst place they'd ever been, like the creepiest or the most haunted place they'd ever been. And they claimed that things followed them home. One of the other guys, I can't remember is it Nick or Aaron or whatever the other guy's name is? He said that the ghost that followed him home from Bobby Mackey's, like, contributed to the breakup of his marriage. Oh, yeah. And all this other kind of stuff. But
it didn't have anything to do with that other woman. They just had to do that.
He's like, I totally cheated on her, but, I'm sure it wasn't anything to do with that. The ghost must have done it. Yeah, I don't know. But, yeah.
Ghost ratted me out.
Yeah. That might have been what happened. Yeah. But, and so it does seem kind of like Zach was kind of, on the second show, he didn't come out and say that he was possessed, but he was kind of hinting. He was like, I don't really feel that good, and like acting kind of weird and all this other kind of stuff. Now, the only interesting thing, and I still think it's probably fake, but the only interesting thing they got, because like I said, they're walking around Bobby Mackey's and they're like, did you hear that? I'm like, dude, I just didn't hear anything. It's like, they just didn't capture much. And, they used the little machine that supposedly just runs through all the, and now one thing they did get that I thought was interesting was they were filming, I don't even know where it was. It looked like a cellar kind of place, and there was like a fridge. And in the background, you could see what clearly looked like a person, like a black. So it didn't look like a ghost or nothing, but it looked like. So they were like, well, now supposedly there was nobody over there. Yeah, but so I'm like, but it's like, I don't know. That could have been a stagehand. They say go over there, and so we can get like a creep. Yeah, so we can get like a creepy shot. I don't know.
Is they're running around there and they're going, did you hear that? And they're going, yeah, I heard. Did you hear it? There it is again. And while all that's going on, they got background music blared. So you can't hear it.
That was the problem. Yeah, like, I couldn't determine, because they're sitting there going, well, did you hear that? I'm like, did I hear what? Like, turn the fucking music down. Yeah. They not only have music blaring in the background, they also have sound effects like, whoa. Yeah,
they're talking over each other.
And they're talking and stuff. And I'm like, how the fuck can I hear anything? I'm deaf as shit as it is. But it's like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not going to hear anything. Yeah. And then they play back the EVPs they got, and they're like, oh, listen, it said whatever it said. I'm like, no.
You could generate
I just couldn't, and I couldn't hear, like, what they were saying that it said.
Crap. Total crap.
But so like I said, I hope you guys appreciate that I sat through 2 hours of that.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Like, watching it was really, I was doing other stuff too.
It's not entertaining to me. I don't know who's
It's not, and I don't like the fast editing. I don't like the fact that they're just constantly running around shouting. Yeah. I don't like that there's like tons of noise going on all the time when really it should be quiet if they want to hear.
There's like only 5 minutes of material there, really.
Yeah.
That is kind of interesting. The interviews with the people that are.
Yeah, that was the only part that was interesting.
It. The rest of it, they just expanded out into entertainment for somebody. I don't know who's entertained by that. Maybe it's a very young demographic, maybe 11, 12, 13, 14. But do they spend money?
That's what I mean.
How does the channel make money on stuff like that?
I mean, somebody's watching it, clearly.
Somebody's got to be watching it.
I mean, like I said, I don't know. I can't sit through it.
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know.
They're all very, very samey.
Yeah, sounded very signifying nothing is just exactly what that show is. All right, so we're pretty much at the end of the show. I think we covered pretty much everything we wanted to cover. So if any of you guys have been to Bobby Mackey's and want to tell me how...
Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Before we end the show, though, one thing we have to mention is that when you go to Bobby Mackey's, you have Bobby Mackey says, "Man, I don't believe anything. I didn't see anything here." All right. Yeah. But then you look outside. Outside there's huge signs. There's ghosts in here. We don't take any responsibility.
Yeah, I said that.
No, you okay? Yeah, which I think that's kind of odd.
Well, and he's been him and his wife have been on a shit ton. I mean, it wasn't just Ghost Adventures. Right. They were on, there was a show on, I think it was on the Travel Channel called The Most Terrifying Place in America. Right. They were on that show called Is It Real? So they're not shy about turning up on TV. No. Which, like I said, I'm not busting their balls about that because
I would too. Maybe.
They've kept that place open since 1978, so good on them.
Yeah, and it looks like
any way you can get publicity, hey man.
And it looked like it's being well cared for, and it was remodeled since a haunting. That's what I mean. So if that brings people in, then go ahead and do it.
Right, I'm not gonna shit on that.
Nope.
I
wouldn't mind going.
We all got big money.
I wouldn't mind going. I'd want to see it.
I actually do too. Yeah. Just because it's so famous. I mean, it's just kind of like
I'm just curious.
Like when we did the show about Winchester House and stuff. Because I've always wanted to go to that too. Yeah. But I really don't think that I would see anything.
I want to see if I can feel anything, any vibes. You know.
But I still want to go just to be just because I think
Winchester
it would be
House
interesting.
would be more interesting though. I think.
Well, yeah, just because even if you don't believe in ghosts, that's still cool to look at, like architecture.
All right, I guess I'm done talking. All right.
All right, that'll do it for episode 84. Remember, if you like the show, like, share, subscribe on all your social media, share with all your friends, do all that other kind of stuff. And if you'd like to support the show, you can go to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/13o'clock. Or if you don't like Patreon, you can go to our blog, which is 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com. And there's a link in the sidebar to a PayPal account if you'd like to make a one-time donation. Also, remember to check out our latest movie review, which was David Cronenberg's The Brood, if you haven't seen it. And also check out our Zazzle store at zazzle.com/13o'clock. And there's t-shirts and a tote bag there if you would like to purchase that. And that will do it for today's episode on Bobby Mackey's Music World. See you next time. Bye.
Way back in the 30s, in the little town of Wilder, lived an old man and his lovely little daughter.